Well, good morning, everybody. My name is Gabe O'Neill, and we're here for another Mondays Live at 11. And look at who we have here. We got Joe Beck, the sales activist here. But yeah, I'm really excited to be here. I'm really excited to have Joe on our show. Um, and I do have to mention that this is where's my thing, my sponsor banner. This is sponsored by Digital Accelerant. Let's get that noise out of the way. If you text the word Gabe to the number 21,000, you'll get my digital business card. And if you text the word sales to the number 21,000, you'll get Joe's digital business card. So check that out when you get some time. But let me welcome Joe Beck. Let me give me a personal introduction before I talk. I'm going to read his professional one. So Joe I met in M3, which is a really cool networking platform, and Joe has a number of franchises there. Where I think I met him in Philly, and I was immediately impressed by him because you could just tell that he was the real deal. That he dealt with, that he had the experience in dealing with a lot of big companies. Of course, as a sales activist, he helps companies with their sales processes, et cetera, et cetera. And I could tell that honestly he was out of my league with because a lot of the stuff that I do, I've never dealt at that gone to that level. But at the same time, he's very approachable and very helpful. So I do appreciate the friendship that has blossomed over the last 8 months or so. And to get to his more formal background, he is a subject matter expert on sales with Fortune 100 sales and leadership experience. Joe has personally generated almost $400 million in sales revenues for companies over his career. And that's what I'm saying. He's out of my league. I've not done that much. Um, he's a professional sales trainer and thought leader on the subject of professional selling, having trained over 3,500 sales professionals and entrepreneurs. And he created the Sales Activist, a sales advisory firm designed to coach and consult with entrepreneurs, helping them to create dynamic sales success. So, welcome, Joe Beck.
Hey, thank you, Gabe. I appreciate it. It's a pleasure being here with you.
So, okay. So the first question I have for you with the sales advisory firm, is that something when you is that just you? Is it a bunch of is it you are you bringing on people or how's that work?
It really depends on exactly what it is that we're doing. I work very closely with my wife, Abby, on things. We also will go and reach out to different people for larger projects, but most of the work that we do is individual one-on-one work, whether it's coaching or consulting with individual entrepreneurs.
Okay, so when you say that I envision you as going to a company and really kind of boosting their sales, or at least do you teach them how, or do you get involved in the sales part of it at all, or are you just teaching them how to do it?
Sure. It's a combination. We just believe that in every situation, one path or another might be more appropriate. In some cases, we get directly involved with what's going on inside the business. Maybe in the case of being like a fractional VP of sales, where we look at certain work that needs to be done, leading a team, creating systems, follow up, accountability. In other cases, we're directly coaching top level sales producers and entrepreneurs, and it really depends on the needs of the business.
Okay, so talking about the process, how important I would imagine the process is really important for a larger company. But when you're a smaller company, what type of processes would you recommend? Does it depend on the person, or is it a sales process important when you're just like a one or two man show? Or
Sure. So let me break that down. The sales
okay,
process is always important. It may look
uh-huh.
different from one organization to the next, whether you're a solopreneur or you have a larger business, but the sales process is always important. And if there's one lesson that I've learned over, a 35 plus year of career in sales, is that there are certain core skill sets that are important, and there are certain best practices that lead to better results. And, the best systems out there, it doesn't matter how large the company is or how small, the best systems out there incorporate many of those best practices. In fact, some of them I put together in a proprietary system that I've created over my career. And that's not just the work that I did personally, but the work that I've done with individuals and teams. And those best practices can really change the game for an entrepreneur.
Okay, so without giving away all your secrets, what can you share as far as like what would help? Again, a lot of us are, a lot of the people who attend M3, we're all salespeople, right? And whether we like it or whether we know it or not, because for me, I'm a software developer that has been building software systems for years. Then all of a sudden, when we tripped over these digital cards, I said, well, if I'm going to sell them, I got to get out and sell them. So, can you give us some at least basic things on things that we should at least have as a backbone for our business?
Sure, absolutely. So there's a couple of things that really help an entrepreneur or anybody who's selling to stand out. The first is, you really want to be sincere about doing the right thing for the people that you're working with. So I tell people right away, right out of the gate, is your mindset correct? Are you coming into it as a true servant leader? Are you trying to come in there and truly add value? That's the first thing. If you don't have that, I will tell you that without a doubt, you're not going to reach your sales objectives. You need to be truly focused on doing the right thing for people, helping them solve their problems. And when you do that, it really makes it a lot easier. Beyond that, really, there's a couple of key best practices that you really need to focus on. And, I'm not going to get into every single step of it, but I will say that there are two key words that I share in all of the coaching and the training that I do. And the first one is one that people are very, very familiar with. It's the word value. How do you create value in what you offer? How do you provide value to the clients and the people that you work with? What is your overall value proposition? The word value is prevalent, and that's a large part of our system for how we operate. But the missing word, the word that we don't talk about enough, and it's all really a backbone piece of the proprietary system that I've built over these 30 plus years, is the word impact. And the reason I say that is, we live in a world right now, Gabe, where people are very, very quick to move forward, quick to move on, quick to move past what you're doing. And a lot of entrepreneurs or sales professionals will focus on just value, and that's great, but then they don't talk about impact. And it really leaves a lot to be desired in their sales process. So those are a couple of the key things that we really focus on. And like with most things, it's how you use them that's the most important.
Okay, so that's good stuff because as you know me, and what I have been focusing on a lot is value, because
Mhm.
not only with the cards but all of the extra stuff that we do behind the scenes, and we just talked about it before we got on about this other stuff that we've got going on. It's providing a ton of value. So
Mhm.
so what am I missing as far as the impact is concerned? What, I don't know, from what you know of me, how can I, what do I need to be doing to make that impact, I guess?
Sure. Well, let's do that in the form of an analogy or an example. It's probably
Okay.
the easiest way of handling it. Let's say one of your cards produces an extra $100,000 in revenue for the
Right.
client that has your card, right?
Right.
And that's great. They're completely amazed by the tremendous value that card has generated. That $100,000 is true
Hmm.
value for their business. The impact, the true impact, is not the $100,000. The impact is asking them a simple question such as, "Hey, Gabe, now that you've generated an extra $100,000, what exactly would you do with that money?" And then let them describe what it is that they would do. Let that money, that thought, that impact start trickling around in their brain. And that truly is what creates impact for people. See, logic and emotion are two different things. Value is tied sometimes significantly to logic. It makes us more money, it saves us money, it provides this, it does that, and that's great. Emotion is where purchasing decisions are made. And
Hmm.
the emotion of the impact is significant. And let's say you're talking to that person says, well, Gabe, that extra $100,000 is going to allow us to add another employee or expand our marketing, or more important, it's going to allow us to take a family vacation for the first time in, 5 years. We haven't had a chance to do that because I've been building my business. That's true impact. That's the difference in good and great. See,
Mm,
really, really good sales producers are experts at uncovering value. Great ones are experts at uncovering impact.
that's interesting because I don't know if you heard that story, but I actually do have a client who told me that he is in his first year he made $200,000. It was an eighty
There you
thousand
go.
percent ROI, and he was over the roof with that. And then he said, in one of our power hours, he PM'd me and he said, "Thanks, Gabe. This month we made 60 grand." So I'm like, okay, but how? I mean, so I see what you're saying. Like, but I don't know. I feel weird. Well, what are you gonna do with that money? I feel weird with. You know what I
Well,
mean?
it doesn't have to be quite like that. I'm just giving you a simple example, but
Right.
it can be very conversational. It'd be like, that's great. $60,000 this month. What's next? What's the plan? How are you going to
Right.
take that 60,000 and
Right.
expand on it?
Right.
And the real message here, Gabe, with exploring impact, it's not about the number, and it's even not about what specifically they share with you, but it is all about the emotional journey that they take when you ask them to describe it. See,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of times people miss opportunities to deepen a relationship, create a sale, or more importantly, create an ongoing client relationship because they just don't ask one or two extra questions. They just don't
Mm-hmm.
ask, what would this do for you? How would this impact your family? Tell me. I'd love to learn what your plans are with this, because those are the things that allow people to go on an emotional journey. And think of it this way: when you go to buy a car, they want to rush to get you inside that car, to drive
Right.
that car, to feel it, to touch it, to smell it, to
Mm-hmm.
experience it, right? Well, it's the same thing in a sales transaction. When you're talking to somebody, you need to get them emotionally committed to making the decision. And then when you do that, the decision itself becomes a no-brainer.
Okay, so all right, now I'm liking this because this is stuff that I need. Okay, so I've got an example for you.
Okay.
Um, and this is funny. In M3 the other day there were 5 or 6 people in the room. I think almost all but one had a digital card from us, and they were ganging up on the person who didn't have one. I wasn't saying anything, but and so she looked around. She said, "Yeah, you guys, what's this all about?" So anyway, long story short, she got on my calendar. She brought her husband. Loved it, loved it, loved it. I mean, lovely people. We had a great time. I mean, the husband was kind of more of a nerd, and he and I talked nerdy stuff, and so that was like really, really kind of fun. And she says, "Oh, I can't wait to talk to my husband about what we're going to do with this." I mean, obviously, I can't close it because they have to talk, right? I mean, there's always
Sure.
have to talk to my husband, but he was right there, which was good. Um, and then I didn't hear anything.
Hmm.
And when I think that that's what frustrates me the most was when you think was they get extremely excited about what you're doing, and you think that they're in your pocket, and then all of a sudden you discover, well, maybe they're not.
Yeah.
So I did follow up this morning, but what kind of advice or what I mean, I think that a lot of it is for me not having these experiences, and
Hmm.
that's why I get befuddled sometimes, where because people are people and they're just going to act a certain way, and sometimes they're going to tell you one thing and do something else. But and I think I've kind of resolved to say, okay, that's okay when that happens because I just got to get more people in my pipeline.
Hmm.
But what are your thoughts on that?
Well, the bottom line is, and this, not everybody will become a client, no matter what you
Right.
do sometimes. But, in my experience, what I've recognized is when situations like that happen, usually it's because at some point in the process, the true impact wasn't explored enough. And
Hmm.
it sometimes is difficult. It's challenging because sometimes people don't give you enough room to do it. But the goal should always be to try to get them to describe to you as best as possible everything that your product or service can do for them, provide for them, and more importantly, how it makes them feel, right? When you think of all the things that can potentially go right or wrong in a transaction, first they have to make a buying decision to move
Right.
forward with you. Then they have to avoid any type of buyer's remorse. Then they have to
Right.
decide to move forward when they got past the buyer's remorse and not change their mind. Then maybe from time to time, they're tempted to think, should I keep this or should I get rid of it? It's more of a retention situation. And then there's
Hmm.
the more rare one, but it happens sometimes as well, is when it's a win back scenario where they've left as a client and then you're considering getting them back. In every one of those situations, the truest way of getting them back on track in the direction that you want them to go is to spend time talking about the impact for them. Get them vocalizing it, get them experiencing it, asking them what happened. I know when we talked about this, you said you wanted to do this, this, and this. What happened?
Hmm.
The reason why it's so powerful, Gabe, this is no Jedi mind trick. This is
Right.
nothing
Right.
like that. This is not, manipulation. This is truly being sincere about trying to help and add value, but more importantly, caring enough to engage people and asking them specifically what they want to get from it and what it would mean. The reason why it's so powerful is 90% of the people out there don't do it. 90% of the people out there don't go that far. They get to the point of getting just enough to get them to maybe make a buying decision, and then that's it. And I encourage you and everybody that's listening to make sure that you spend that time uncovering the impact, figuring out what that would look like for somebody, and more importantly, get them to tell you what it would mean.
That's interesting. So, my mind is racing because this is the kind of stuff that, I mean, the other thing is I'm fascinated by all of this stuff, and anything that I've ever done, I've always wanted to get better. So as a salesperson, I'm starting on the on the floor, and so anything, so raising myself up is always interesting to me. But um, yeah, I just had a thought and it just ran out of my head, but yeah, it was shoot. Um, well, anyway, it was I guess getting back to them, I know what I was going to say. One of the things that I get every once in a while is, "Oh, you really stirred up something. I mean, let me think about this." I mean, I'm not the type of person, and of course that's a common thing. And I was asking in our power hour what their people's responses to that were, and Chris Michelle was saying, "Well, turn around and ask them, well, what did you like about it?"
Mhm.
And I think that's related to your impact statement because it gets them to talk about the value and what they've perceived, correct?
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely. That's yeah, I mean, one of the glaring discrepancies when people struggle or fail with sales is usually because they fail to engage. Maybe it's because they're uncomfortable, maybe it's because they're nervous about asking that question. But you first need to diagnose and understand what the problem is before you can ever correct it, right? So you have to
right.
ask. And I think the key is always to be able to go back to people and, consistently remind them that you were concerned enough and interested enough in their success and what they're doing to ask in the first place.
Mhm.
People, a lot of times over the years, people would say to me, the reason why I'm working with you, Joe, is because you cared enough to ask about this, or you were sincere enough to get into this particular issue where other people chose to avoid it or ignored it or diminished it. And it
Right.
goes back to that failure to engage point that I made. Over a very, very long career, both as a producer and as a coach and a leader of other people, I learned right away. I could tell from a mile away when a sales interaction was going south. And it was
Mhm.
mostly because the salesperson wasn't engaging correctly. So when I coach people and when I talk with people about selling, certainly as an entrepreneur, no matter what your background, I tell people, forget about selling, forget about all these things that you read in a book on sales. Forget all of that.
Right.
Be yourself, be sincere, and truly engage. And then talk about the value you bring, and then let them talk about the impact it has. And it can be that simple for somebody to kind of get in the direction that they'd like to go.
Okay. So for me, because what I notice about what I do, or what I the way I do it is, I don't try and sell. I show them the value, and if they see the value, then they buy it, and that's kind of, so I'm not hard closing. I'm not doing any of that stuff.
Sure.
But at the same time, if they really like it, I get frustrated when they don't pull the trigger.
Yeah.
But a lot of my presentation is me talking, is me showing them all the features, and so I think what you're saying is, at some point, I have to turn that around and just to say, oh, okay, so maybe something like, from what you've just seen, how do you think that could impact your business? Is that a valid
Correct.
a
How
valid?
would that impact your business? And that will create the value. And the
Mm-hmm.
next step, the follow-up, is the most powerful. And let's just say, for example, and we're not going to get into specific numbers, but let's just say
Right.
you show them a business card package, and
Right.
you say to them, what do you think this would do for their business? And they say, oh, this would be great. I'm sure this would add to our sales. It would probably be easier to identify prospects. And we should certainly pick up new business from that. And that's
Right.
value. But see, that value may not be enough for them to make the buying decision because it's not
Mm-hmm.
real enough. It doesn't really emotionally impact them. But
Right.
let's say you go a little further and you say, so let me ask you, Mr. Customer or Mr. Client, how much is one client worth to you?
Mm-hmm.
Is it 5,000? Is it 10,000 over the life of your work with them? And let's say the number is, I don't know, $5,000, whatever number,
Right.
just picking a number, right? So, and you're talking about picking up one or two extra clients, the ROI without question is there. Well,
Mm-hmm.
imagine you duplicating that and getting really, really good at using this, because you will, because everybody will. All of a sudden now that number is exponentially larger. What impact would that have on your business? See, I choose the word impact very, very intentionally because it's the foundational question, point. It's what you should include in the questions you ask. What
Okay.
impact will this have on you? What impact will this have on your business? What impact will this have on your growth or your financial stability? And when you throw that in there, all of a sudden it shifts towards what they get from an impact standpoint, the emotion of it. And they're not as concerned anymore about the buying decision. It becomes something emotionally that they want to do. But the biggest thing, and this is just one of these things that I see with a lot of people, just talk less. Once you've
Mm-hmm.
explained what you need to explain, get them talking, because they're going to talk themselves into what they need most.
Mm-hmm. That's great stuff. And so, what you mentioned about how much is one client worth to you, I've used that,
Mhm.
and I think that's my to me that's my thing where, okay, they're gonna, once I say this, they're gonna get one, because they just realized that their client, one client is worth $5,000. They only pay 500 for the card, whatever, and so the ROI is there. So I don't need to do anything else. That's in my head.
Mhm.
That's almost my closing line. But
Yep.
what you say is to take that one step further. I like it, and saying like, okay, and take that out a few months from now when you get 3, 4, 10 clients from it. But even beyond that, how will that impact your business? I think that's something I'm going to definitely, um, include in how I do it. But and you're right. And I'm that's why I said my wife would be so much better at this than me. She is so good at engaging people,
Yeah.
like, I use this thing a lot where, we'll be at a restaurant in the waiting line before COVID, before when there were lines to go in restaurants, and it's just me, my daughter, my wife, and my wife will be looking at somebody's phone behind us, showing them her phone of Freddie Mercury pictures all of a sudden they found out that they both like Queen together and said, "Oh, look at the picture." And it's like, it's bizarre. It's like, I mean, but she's just so good at stuff like that. And I'm always learning. I'm always learning. So I really appreciate you helping me with this because, um, and I think this is valuable not only to me, but I think that anybody who's listening. And the other part of that is, of all the questions I've asked other people, I don't think I've ever, I don't. That's a different answer, and I really do like it. So let me get to your questions. What is the number one sales challenge facing entrepreneurs today that you would say?
Sure. That's a great question. And I'm going to go to what I call the FTE syndrome, and it's failure to engage. I think, as a society, we've gotten really, really adept at making decisions quickly sometimes. We're in a point and click world. We can order things online just like
Mhm.
that. And sometimes we just don't engage. And when I say engage, I mean truly engage. Take it to the level that we're talking about today. Asking questions, exploring impact, really getting to understand what means the most to the people, what's in, whatever it is that you're showing them. And that's something that I think a lot of people struggle with. Entrepreneurs struggle with that all the time. They're excited, they're anxious, they want to show what they offer to the client, but then they don't engage well enough. And that can sometimes turn off a prospect, but more importantly, it's a golden opportunity that's missed. So I would say the failure to engage is the biggest issue.
Okay, so and I think I mean, and how do they overcome that challenge? Where I mean, I think for me, I think for me doing that, it's like, yeah, 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 I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. And it's how do I get that like in my head where I can't not do that? Because
Sure.
sometimes you'll get into a thing and you're told, "Oh yeah, I forgot about damn it, I should have said that or I should have done that." How do you get that in your head where that becomes natural, I guess is the question.
Yeah. Well, first thing, and I go back to what I said right at the beginning, you have to have a servant's heart. You have to be sincere about what you're trying to do to help
Mhm.
people. And the reason why that's an important foundational piece, not only because it's the right thing to do, but because it puts people in a position where if they're in that exact place, you have to ask yourself, have I done the very best that I can for this person? Have I asked everything that I could possibly ask for them to feel comfortable that this is the right decision for them? Maybe it isn't. Maybe it's just not the right fit, and that'll happen a certain percentage of the time. But the largest percentage of the time, the people that you're really, trying to win over are the people that are in that middle. There's certain people that no matter what you're going to say, they're going to want to work with you. And there are other people that no matter what you say, that they won't. It's that middle group, the people in between, that you need to make sure you engage completely and do everything you possibly can. So at the end of that time with them, you did everything you could to help.
Mhm. Excellent. So what's your favorite sales or closing technique?
Oh, I love that question. That's like my favorite question. It's not about techniques. It's not about buying a book of 100 top 10, closes. It's not anything like that. It's just about being sincere, being a problem solver. Your product, your service you're offering is not going to fit for everybody. Do the very best you can, be sincere, add value, help people solve problems. I worked with a mentor many, many years ago, and he was very, very direct, and he would say, make calls, see people, solve problems. And it was that simple. Reach out to them, see them, solve problems. Now, he didn't tell me a lot of the other things about how to do it very, very well. I had to
Right.
learn a lot of that over the many, many years, but he was right. Just, truly engage people, try to solve problems. It's not about closing techniques or skills. It's about being sincere, solving somebody's problem, adding value, and most importantly, having an impact on them.
Awesome. Awesome. And one last question. What makes the sales activist different than any other companies coaching people about sales?
So thank you. That's a great question. So everything that we do at the Sales Activist is based on over 30 years of tried and true best practices. We developed a proprietary framework for how we approach the sales process. It's based on tens of thousands of live sales interactions and hundreds of millions of dollars of closed business with companies that I've worked with. And that's not even counting the people that I've trained and developed over the years. Probably the most impactful thing that I've done has been to have worked with over 3,500 entrepreneurs and sales professionals in training and developing those skills in them. So, for me, it's all about going to people that really know what to do because they've experienced it. I don't like to work with people that fall into the category, for those that, do, and those that don't teach, but
Right.
you've got to find people that have the experience. One of the things that, I pride myself on, in the sales activist is I've never stopped carrying a bag as a sales professional. Even when I had teams as large as 200 people in
Mm-hmm.
organizations, I was still out there in the field. And I think that experience is vital.
Yeah, it kind of goes with a lot of stuff that I've been doing in my career, where software wise, I could have been a manager. That's
Yep.
what most of they become managers, and all the managers got fired, and then they nobody wanted them because there's too many
Mhm.
of them. But and I always it was not just because I wanted to remain relevant. I always liked doing it, and I have always enjoyed programming, and um and so that's another reason why I stayed in so long. But yeah, it's kept me going. But I will say that, and to add what you're saying, if you enjoy what you're selling, I mean, I'm glad I could not sell lawnmower parts. I could
Yeah.
not do that, right? I mean, I enjoy what I'm selling because of the fact that it does provide a lot of value, and I get excited when people get value from it, from what I do, and that just makes I think that makes my job easier. So I think if you're just trying to sell, widgets or shower curtains or whatever, I mean, I feel bad for you, because I just, I mean, there's no way I could ever do that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. You have
so
to
I think,
enjoy what you do. There's no doubt about it, or you'll never
right,
reach your full potential doing it.
right. So do you have any closing thoughts for people? I really appreciate you coming on. Let's talk about M3 Link for a little bit.
Sure,
Um,
absolutely. So first off, for anybody, before we talk about M3 Linked, if you'd like any help or guidance on what you may be struggling with as far as sales, just text the word sales to the number 21,000. You can get in touch with me at the Sales Activist. I'd be more than happy to schedule a complimentary consultation with you, talk more about sales in your business, and help in any way that I can. So um, M3 Linked. So, first off, today's conversation is a great example of the power of M3 Linked. You and I probably never would have met Gabe outside of
Absolutely.
a forum like M3 Linked. Some of the most
Hmm.
impactful business relationships that I've established over the last 4 years have come out of this model and connecting to people the way we do in M3 Linked. So, it's, in my opinion, it's the best entrepreneur ecosystem that's out there. It's a
Hmm.
way for entrepreneurs, investors, inventors, strategic advisors, anybody that travels in entrepreneur circles to be able to connect with other like-minded individuals in a friendly environment to make meaningful connections. And most importantly, the types of connections that can change your life. And, I don't want to sound like a commercial. I'm passionate about this because I live it every day. But I truly believe that an entrepreneur sometimes is just one or two meaningful connections away from changing their life and changing their business forever. And one of the things I'm most proud of is the work that we do inside of M3 Linked, helping entrepreneurs make those exact types of connections.
Hmm. Yeah, and as a person who, I was introduced to M3, I don't know, it was 8 months ago or whatever it was now.
Yep.
Um, I just I said, this is the right swimming pool for me. I was in a lot of different what I call swimming pools, networking
Uh-huh.
platforms, and as soon as I hit M3, I said, no, 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 those are the wrong ones. I need to be in M3 Link because of, and I was just thinking about this the other day, with all the people that I've met and all the people that I consider important to me now. A lot of them are from M3 Link, and a lot of them, they're the ones in the power hours. They're the ones that are helping guide me in my business, and we're guiding them. Everybody's guiding each other. Everybody's, it's like a lifeboat. Everybody's helping, keeping everybody afloat. And it's and I thought, well, this is, it's just kind of incredible.
Yeah.
Whereas, when you think of some other platforms where, people there just like, what can I get out of this? What can I get out of that? They're there just to take. When the major thought of that's not the major thought of people in M3. They're there to see, okay, well, what can I do to make a difference with this person or with that person? How
Yeah.
can I help this person? And it's phenomenal. And so I'm excited to be a part of it. Really am.
Yeah, there's no doubt. And
Mhm.
it's definitely a life-changing community. And I think the thing that really stands out, and you mentioned this, it's so very true. It's about people coming alongside other individuals, and just helping them, but thinking about the relationship and not just about the transaction. And that's something
Mhm.
that, again, in our society, we're so wired to things being quick and fast and doing things that sometimes we forget to build meaningful relationships the way we should. That failure to
Mhm.
engage that I mentioned earlier. And
Right.
that's one of the things I love about M3 Linked. It's a great opportunity for you to engage with people that think that way from a standpoint of building relationships. They want to build relationships. They want to work with people in a way that's meaningful. And most importantly, it's a friendly, fun environment that people get to make those connections in a comfortable way.
Mhm. Very good. So the other way you can get in touch, find out about M3 Linked, is you can text the word M3 to number 21,000, and you'll get three of Joe's chapters: Tampa, Dallas, and Philly. Right.
Philadelphia, yeah.
And so you can check out any one of those three, and you can actually connect right there and register and just to test it out. Joe will help you with that. But I highly recommend that. I would absolutely highly recommend it. One more thing before we go is I want to plug our collaboration forum, which is actually tomorrow. Tomorrow, it being Tuesday, January 18th at 1 p.m. Eastern. And again, what this collaboration forum came was an idea born out of our power hours where we're using events to augment our business. And what we're doing is a lot of what you just saw right here, where people they're going to be 10 subject matter experts, and they're all going to talk about different things, whether it be sales, or I'm going to talk about branding, and there's going to be some accountants there, some lenders. I mean, all kinds of financial, any kind of thing that you might be interested in. They're only going to talk for 5 to 10 minutes at the beginning, but then they're going to lead a discussion on that same
Mm.
topic, just kind of similar to what we're doing, where people ask questions, people show their experiences, so you get to actually participate, which is unusual. So it's just a very different thing, and so you can text the word collab to 21,000. If you happen to watch this after tomorrow, you can still select. At some point, I'm going to update it because this is going to be a monthly thing. So you'll still be able to participate in the next one where there'll be different speakers. So, having said that, all right, Joe, I think we're done. Appreciate you coming on.
Thank
I
you.
think
It
this
was
is
my
awesome.
pleasure.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, and we'll see you in M3.
Sounds great, Gabe. We'll see you then.
All right, bye.
Yeah, bye.